Hello and welcome to another exciting video here in Mathland. Today we're going to talk about writing a quadratic when given two solutions. So it's kind of like working backwards. If they gave you the solutions, could you figure out how to write them in binomial form and then FOIL that out to write a quadratic? So here I'm going to work out something from a quadratic equation to our answers, and then we're going to work backwards to do the opposite from the answers to the quadratic. Okay, so I've got x squared minus x minus 12 equals 0. So this is an equation. I'm solving for 0. Now, if you want to go back and look at factoring trinomials, there are a few different ways to do that, but hopefully you know how to do that. If not, take a look at those videos. So I'm going to factor this out, a couple of binomials equals 0. So I know x goes in this position, and they need to multiply, the other terms need to multiply to be negative 12, but add to be negative 1. Okay, so it's going to be negative 4 and a positive 3. Okay, now again, take a look at those videos if you need some assistance factoring. Okay, so to solve these, I'm going to break these into two different equations here. X minus 4 equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, I'm going to solve for x. X equals 4 and x equals negative 3. Okay, so these are my solutions to this quadratic equation. So this is going to be, these two are going to be the intercepts of our quadratic. So it's going to be a parabola, it opens up, and it's going to cross the x-axis at these points. So negative 3 and 4. So if you want to sketch it out, you can. Negative 3, negative 4. So let's say that's negative 3. This is 4. It's going to do something like that. It's a parabola. Okay, but that's kind of side note stuff. What we want to focus on is from these answers, could we take it back to the quadratic? Okay, so I want you to notice a few things here. In our answers, we have the opposite sign of what we had in our binomials here. We have a positive 4 for an answer, and we had a negative 4 in our binomial. Same thing here. Our answer was negative 3, but in the binomial it was plus 3 because we had to shift it to the other side to solve for it. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're given solutions, two solutions, and we have to go back and write a quadratic for them. So I'm going to give you let's see, a couple of answers. I'll say my answers were x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 2. Okay, I want to go backwards with this. From my solutions, take it back to a quadratic. Okay, so what I just said is it's going to switch the signs. From our answers, we're going to put them in binomials, so they're going to have their own special binomial, equals 0. So x, it's not going to be negative 5 anymore, it's going to be plus 5. And then over here we have x plus 2. Okay, so we're just placing them into the binomials. And if you had more terms, like I terms or whatever, you just switch those signs from your actual solutions. Now we just FOIL it out. So we do x times x is x squared, and we have a 5x and a 2x. We're going to add those together, 7x, and then 5 times 2 is 10 equals 0. And that is our quadratic when we have two solutions. Ta-da! Okay, so from our answers, switch those signs, put them into binomials, and solve. Let's try another one that's a little bit more complicated. It has I terms. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to say x equals 1 plus 2i, and x equals 1 minus 2i. Okay, so we're going to treat this as one term together, just like we had a 5 and a 2, a negative 5 and a negative 2 over there. So I'm going to put this in binomials, and I'm going to say x minus, because if I treat this as one term, I'm going to think this is positive, and this is positive. So I'm going to say x minus that whole term, 1 plus 2i, and then x minus 1 minus 2i. Okay, so just to keep things straight, this is a term, I'm going to slip that in there, this is a term, I'm going to slip that in there, and I'm going to put subtraction out here because I want to switch those signs just like we did right here. Okay, so now we're going to distribute that negative x minus 1 minus 2i, and then x minus 1 plus 2i. Okay, equals 0. Oops. Okay, we're writing a quadratic equation, so we have to have 0 on the end here. Okay, so now here we FOILed this out to get our actual equation, and we're going to do the same thing here. Let's see, we've got x times x, x squared. We have x times negative 1, negative x. We have x times all that, plus 2, we'll call it xi. I have a feeling they'll cancel out, so just write those down as it is. Just put the variables and the I together. Okay, next term, negative 1 times x, negative x. Negative 1 times negative 1, plus 1. Negative 1 times 2i, negative 2i. Okay, and the last term, I'm going to use a different color over here. Negative 2i times x, negative 2xi. I might cancel out. Negative 2i times negative 1 plus 2i. And then over here we've got negative 2i times positive 2i, negative 4i squared equals 0. Okay, looks like a lot of stuff going on here, but we can combine like terms. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. I've got an x squared term here. That's the only one, so I'm going to put x squared. Okay, I'm going to mark it out because I've already done it, and I don't like going back and seeing what I have left, and it looks kind of daunting. So x squared, done. Okay, so now our x terms. So I've got negative x, and that's it. So negative 2x. I've got 2 of them there. Boom. Okay, I've got 2xi and a negative 2xi. Those actually canceled out. Okay, and then I've got an I here. I've got a 1, and these i's cancel out. Negative 2i and 2i. These guys cancel out as well. And I've got a plus 1, and I've got a minus 4i squared equals 0. Now remember, I squared equals negative 1. I squared equals negative 1. Okay, so just remember that when you have an I squared or a multiple of I, that it actually becomes some kind of number. So that's going to be negative 4 times negative 1, because that's what I squared is. So we're actually going to have x squared minus 2x, and this is going to be a plus 4, because negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4. 4 plus 1 is 5 equals 0. And that's it. So, even when you have 2 terms here for your solutions, you can still make them into binomials and factor them, distribute the terms out, and it looks pretty crazy and long, but some of the terms probably will cancel, and you end up with a nice trinomial here, a quadratic equation. And there we go. That's it. Enjoy.